I was unconscious in the ER at 3 a.m. My son's shocking response will haunt you forever. The lights flickered above the chaotic emergency room, casting eerie shadows that danced like restless spirits. It was 3 a.m., a time when the world outside was heavy with sleep, but inside, the hum of machines and hushed whispers filled the air with an unsettling tension. And there I lay, completely unaware, my body cold and still, submerged in the gray fog of unconsciousness. The chill of the sterile room seeped into my bones, unaware of the storm brewing around me. Without warning, a piercing scream shattered the silence. My son, Jake, stood transfixed, eyes wide with terror as he watched the chaos unfold. His hands trembled, clutching the edge of my stretcher like a lifeline. I may have been oblivious, but Jake was awake, the weight of it pressing down on him like a crushing wave. He was just a kid, barely 13, yet the panic on his face told a different story. He could feel it, the urgency in the air, the taste of fear coating his tongue like bitter ash. People rushed around the room, their voices a blur of medical jargon, a frantic symphony of chaos that sounded like an alien language. A nurse shouted, "Get the crash cart," and I could almost see my son's heart racing in the way his chest heaved. What was he thinking as he stared at me, helpless? Would he even trust that I would wake up? The thought alone sent shivers down his spine, and, in that moment, my heart sank for him. And then, something happened that shook him to his core. A doctor leaned over my limp form, eyes cold and unyielding as she pronounced, "We're losing her." The weight of those words, I could feel. They hung in the air like a thick fog, drowning out all hope. Jake's face twisted in disbelief, eyes glistening with unshed tears. Was that the moment he thought he might lose me forever? Fear clawed at him with icy fingers, tightening around his heart. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the countdown clock ticked on, the room felt like it was closing in. With my breath faint and fading, I could sense Jake's pulse quicken, each beat echoing like a dull drum in his ears. What could he do? What choice did he have? Then, just as abruptly as it began, a new sound cut through the chaos of voice, calm yet chilling, whispered within the sterile walls, "It's time to wake her up." The command sent a jolt through Jake. Was it possible? Could they really pull me back from the brink? Time froze for a heartbeat as Jake's eyes narrowed in determination. This was his moment, but what happened next? Would my son find the strength he needed? The uncertainty loomed, slinking in like a shadow. Would I awaken to find him unscathed, or would this harrowing night haunt him forever? The air thickened around Jake as the weight of the doctor's words sank in. "It's time to wake her up." Those words echoed in his mind, a lifeline dangling just out of reach. He couldn't shake the dread pooling in his stomach, the gnawing thought that, despite all the chaos, this could end in heartbreak. The medical team buzzed like a swarm of angry bees, their movements precise and urgent. He caught glimpses of bright blue scrubs and stark white masks, faces obscured but intent. Suddenly, the crash cart rolled into view, wheels squeaking as it came to a halt beside me. The nurse gripped the paddles, fingers twitching. A moment of silence hung in the air, a breath, a prayer, a heartbeat before the rhythm of the machines resumed. "Jake!" A kind voice broke through. A warm hand landed on his shoulder, squeezing gently. It was one of the nurses, her eyes filled with empathy. "You need to step back for a moment." But Jake couldn't. The urge to reach out, to touch me, to scream that I was still here inside this fog, trapped yet fighting to wake up, was overwhelming. He shook his head, refusing to move. "Mom," he croaked, his voice trembling, barely a whisper over the cacophony. In his mind, he screamed louder, a primal call for help. The doctor didn't look up, focusing instead on the task at hand. "On the count of 3, she said, the calm in her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. 1, 2, 3. Jake watched, heart in his throat, as the paddles made contact. A crackling sound surged through the room, followed by the artificial tone of the machines. Desperation clawed at him. What if it wasn't he enough? What if they couldn't he save me? The room pulsed with energy, every eye focused on me, every heart held captive by the tension. Another jolt rocked the room, and Jake felt it a wave of hope. I had to come back. I was fighting, but shadows lurked in the periphery of his mind, gnawing on his resolve. What if this was a futile battle? The seconds stretched. With a deep breath, he leaned in closer, whispering, "Mom, please don't leave me. I need you." The words slipped out, raw and desperate. The doctor called out again. The paddles struck my chest for the second time. The tension was palpable, an electric charge filling the air, as if the very walls were holding their breath. Nurses and orderlies exchanged urgent looks, tracking the monitor's lines as they surged and dipped violently. And then my body convulsed. Jake saw it, the slight movement of my fingers. Was this a sign? Hope rushed through his veins like a river bursting through a dam. They'd jolted me back to life. But the moment was fleeting. My eyes remained closed, my breathing still shallow, and doubt crept in again like a thief in the night. What if they couldn't bring me fully back? The fear of losing me loomed larger, filling his soul with a dread he couldn't shake. Then, the nurse suddenly shifted focus and yelled, "We need more time. Where's the doctor?" The urgency in her voice sent a fresh wave of panic through him. Suddenly, the lights above flickered again, casting an unsettling gloom. In that moment, Jake felt a chill run down his spine as a shadow loomed over the door, a figure barely visible through the glass barrier. The doctor. But something was off. The way the figure stood, rigid yet lost, sent alarms ringing in Jake's head. What if this was not just a fight for my life, but something darker? The air thickened with an unspeakable tension, wrapping around Jake like a shroud. He gripped the edge of the stretcher tighter, searching his mind for answers, searching for hope in a storm. And then, as his heart raced, a chilling realization settled deep within him. What if they weren't just fighting for me, but to keep something else at bay? The dying sounds of the machines were no longer just background noise. They felt like a countdown, a warning of an impending revelation. What was about to be unleashed in this raw chaos? "I can't lose you," he shouted, but was anyone even listening? As the door swung open, the figure stepped inside. A twist of fate, a shocking turn. Jake braced for the storm that was about to break. What awaited him on the other side of that door? Would he find answers, or merely dive deeper into the shadows of despair? Jake's breath caught in his throat as the doctor stepped into the room. It was her, but she looked different, disheveled, anxious, a frantic light in her eyes that suggested the terror of the moment had seeped into her very core. "What's wrong? What's happening?" Jake rasped, desperation pouring from him like a flood. The noise of the machines faded into a distant blur. Nothing mattered except for the truth hanging precariously in the air. The doctor looked at him, her expression flickering between resolve and uncertainty. "We're fighting against time, Jake. She's not responding the way we hoped." Those words crashed over him like a wave, dragging him under. Panic clawed at his insides. "What do you mean? You have to do something." His voice broke, laced with anguish. Her gaze dropped to the floor, and for an instant, Jake saw the shadows of doubt flicker across her face. "I'm doing everything I can, but there is something else." Before she could finish, another jolt sparked in the air, surging through the monitors. The machines beeped louder, the rhythm of life pounding in frantic beats. It was as if they sensed the darkness creeping in, getting ready to consume everything in its path. Jake felt the anger rise within him, a fire igniting in the face of the unknown fear. "What is it? What are you hiding from me?" he shouted, gripping the edge of the stretcher. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The doctor met his gaze again, her eyes steely yet filled with a painful hesitation. "There are complications. We could lose her not just to the injury, but to something deeper. Something in her past." "What? What do you mean?" Jake felt a chill slip through his veins as his mind raced to grasp the meaning behind her words. Before she could respond, chaos erupted anew. The lights flickered wildly, plunging the room into disarray. Shadows danced on the walls, creating ghostly figures that seemed to whisper secrets only Jake could hear. The nurse next to the monitors dropped her clipboard, and it clattered loudly, echoing through the tension-laden air. Jake felt time stretch in all directions. Seconds felt like hours. The tension spun out around him, tightening like a noose. Is she in danger from something or someone? He couldn't shake the feeling, a knot tightening in his gut. That a voice crackled through the intercom, jarring everyone back to reality. Code blue in room 4. Repeat, code blue. The urgency was palpable, and every pair of eyes in the room shifted back up to the monitors that began flashing frantic warnings. The nurse yelled to the doctor, "We need to clear this area. Now." But Jake couldn't pull himself away. Every instinct told him to stay, to fight for me, even as the looming dread threatened to suffocate him. No. What about my mom? She needs me. He felt the siren call of the chaos envelop him, drawing him into a storm of uncertainty. Suddenly, he realized a figure loomed in the distance just beyond the glass, its features shadowed by the dimmed lights. Jake felt a chill creep up his spine, the stark sense that whatever this was, a looming thread, it was coming closer. Could it be connected to his mother's hidden past? Something far deeper than anyone could have anticipated? Then, in a moment that felt both heavy and surreal, the doctor turned back to him. "You need to trust me. This is bigger than we imagined." Jake's heart raced as the truth bore down upon him like a freight train. What did you mean bigger? As the sound of footsteps approached, Jake braced himself. True danger was coming. Could he handle what awaited him? The darkness at the edges of his thoughts began to swirl, and with it came the frightening question. Would this fight for my life bring clarity or plunge them into shadows they could never escape? Just then, the door swung wide open, revealing a stark silhouette against the glaring light. What secrets would spill forth? What darkness would emerge? Jake's heart raced as he stood rooted to the floor, fear gripping him like a vice. The silhouette stepped into the room, its features still obscured by the harsh light. The air felt charged, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. "Who are you?" Jake's voice trembled, barely breaking the fragile silence that had settled in the chaotic room. His instincts screamed that this figure was not a doctor or nurse. There was something dangerous about it, like a predator hunting its prey. The figure took another step closer, slowly revealing a familiar face dressed in a dark hoodie with a grim expression. "I'm here for her." The voice was low, nearly a whisper, but it resonated with an unsettling authority that made Jake's stomach turn. "Who are you?" he demanded again, his fists clenching at his sides, determined to protect his mother at all costs. "What do you want?" "Your mother, she's hiding something." The figure's words slithered through the air, raising the hair on the back of Jake's neck. "Something that could change everything. Get away from her." Jake shouted, eyes darting toward the doctor for support, but she stood frozen, her face a mask of disbelief and confusion. "She needs to remember," the figure continued, unperturbed. "Before it's too late." The lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows that seemed to pull the corners of the room into darkness. Jake felt the panic rising, the mounting dread starting to suffocate him. "What do you know?" he cried out, his voice breaking. "What are you talking about?" In that moment, the monitors surged back to life, their wails piercing through the thick tension. The doctor snapped out of her stunned daze, rushing to the console. "We need to stabilize her," she shouted, urgency replacing shock. The figure stepped back, palms raised, a gesture of surrender. "You're making a mistake, Jake. You have to trust me. There's more to what happened, and if she doesn't remember, we may lose her forever." Jake felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him. "What do you mean?" he gasped, each word feeling like it was pulled from the pit of his stomach. "She was involved in something dangerous," the figure continued, a glimmer of sadness flashing in their eyes. "Something that's been haunting her for years. But now, it's back, and it wants her." "What is this, a joke?" Jake felt the walls around him closing in. The room now buzzed with machine beeps, the chaos becoming more frantic with each passing moment. "You're lying." "I wish I was." The figure stepped closer again, this time with an urgency that took Jake off guard. "I can help her remember, but you need to trust me. If you don't, the shadows that follow her will consume you all." Jake swallowed hard, fighting against the torrent of emotions. He glanced at the doctor, her eyes darted between them, and he could see the battle within her. Was this a desperate plea for help, or was there something deeper, a web of lies wrapping around his family? A new instinct kicked in, combining desperation with determination. "I don't need you," he spat, defiance thrumming in his veins. But deep down, The gnawing thought began to creep in that maybe he did. What was this figure hiding? What terrible truths were entwined in his mother's past? "Mom," he shouted, desperation taking over. "Please, fight for me. Remember." With that final cry, the air shifted once more, tension thickening to a suffocating level. The stranger stepped back into the shadows as the doctor turned to Jake urgently. "We have to focus on her right now. Everything else it can wait." As the chaos unfolded, Jake felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was teetering on the edge of something life-changing, and he had no idea what the next moments would bring. Would they save her, or would they plunge deeper into an abyss that threatened to consume everything? The door creaked open again, but this time, it wasn't just another nurse or doctor. What walked in was a truth, veiled in shadows, and it didn't plan on letting anyone escape unscathed. Jake felt his breath hitch in his chest. Something heavy loomed in the air, a thick tension that made him want to scream. The figure had retreated into the dark, but their presence lingered like a thick fog. The doctor was desperately working at the console, her fingers flying over buttons as beeps and alarms began to harmonize like a frantic symphony. "Stay with her, just stay with her," she muttered under her breath, but Jake couldn't focus on her words. Everything felt distant, muffled by his roaring thoughts. What did this stranger mean by something dangerous? He felt like someone had taken a hammer to the glass wall of his reality, leaving jagged pieces of fear and uncertainty. "Mom," he yelled again, this time feeling a crack in his voice, as if the walls were closing in. Would she answer? Did she even know he was there? The machines were alive, pulsing, their chaotic cacophony wrapping around the room like a predator ready to strike. "Help me," he managed, turning his attention back to the doctor. "What can we do?" "Jake." The doctor's voice snapped with authority, throwing a lifeline into his panic. "We need to stabilize her first. Focus on your mother." He looked at her and finally allowed himself to take in the sight of his mom in that bed. Her skin was ghostly pale, her breath a shallow whisper. Was she even fighting? He felt that familiar gut punch of helplessness. The room started spinning. He wanted answers, but all he felt was this gnawing fear. What could have happened to her? "Jake, please just help me here," the doctor insisted, her voice more urgent now, pulling him back from the brink. But then a shadow moved again, and Jake's heart faltered. The air grew colder, a prickling chill against his skin. The figure stepped out of the darkness once more, this time with an energy that sent a bolt of electric shock through him. "I have to tell you, she doesn't just need to remember, she needs to confront what she's been running from," the figure stated, stepping into the weak light. Jake could see the deep lines of worry etched on their face. "I know it's hard to understand, but if she doesn't face it, you will never have her back." "Stop," Jake blurted, his hands balling into fists again. "You don't know anything about us." "I know everything," they shot back, voice rising. "I've seen it." "You think her fainting was a coincidence?" The irony dripped from their tone. "What if it's all connected?" The air thickened with tension, Jake's mind racing, grasping for any semblance of clarity. Was this person really trying to help? Or were they just another shadow in this waking nightmare? "Just tell me what it is," Jake demanded, frustration boiling over. What's hidden in her past? But before the figure could answer, a sudden crash resonated through the corridor. The lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into darkness for a moment. Panic bubbled up, and Jake could hear the hurried footsteps of nurses and orderlies rushing past outside. "Jake!" The doctor's voice was fierce again. "She's crashing. We need to stabilize her now." Everything felt like a blur, people moving, voices shouting, the alarms wailing as they filled his ears, drowning out his thoughts. Despair and anger coiled within him, and in that moment, he almost didn't realize the stranger had slipped closer. "Remember," they whispered, eyes locked onto Jake's, their gaze measuring and intense. "Time is running out." Jake's heart pounded, the truth of those words wrapping around him like vines, tightening. What would he have to confront? What risks lay ahead? As he swallowed the lump in his throat, the figure stepped away and merged back into the shadows, leaving Jake alone, suspended between fear and revelation. The chaos swirled around him, and he knew in that fleeting second that answers awaited him, just not the answers he was prepared for. What lay on the other side of this moment could very well change everything. And as another crash echoed down the hallway, He braced himself for whatever darkness awaited. Would he be ready to face the truth? Or would it consume him whole? The room erupted with a cacophony of shouts. Nurses and doctors swarmed around, their faces a blur of urgency. Jake's heart raced, each beat echoing the tumult around him. He strained to catch a glimpse of his mother, each second feeling like a lifetime. Fear gripped him tighter, cold and unrelenting. "Get the crash cart," someone barked. The words rang in his ears like a death knell. Jake's stomach twisted at the thought of losing her. "Jake!" The doctor's voice cut through the frenzy, panic riding every syllable. "Grab that syringe. We need to administer the epinephrine." Without thinking, Jake lunged for the bright blue vial, his fingers trembling as he fumbled to get it out of the rack. The world around him blurred into a whirl of colors and sounds, but the dark figure's words echoed in his mind. What did they know? What truth hovered just out of reach? As he handed the doctor the syringe, he caught a glimpse of something, a flicker of movement from the corner of his eye. The figures stood there again, their expression unnerving, as if they were part of the chaos but completely separate from it, like a ghost haunting these sterile walls. "Jake, focus." The doctor's voice was sharp, grounding him for a moment. "I need you to keep that pressure on her wound. Do you understand?" He nodded, dread creeping back in. Each beat of the machines felt like a countdown. She was slipping away. He pressed his hands against her arm, willing her to fight, wishing with every fiber of his being that she could hear him. "Stay with us, Mom," he urged, his voice breaking. "Please." The figures stepped closer again, their presence heavy with an unspoken urgency. "This is it, Jake. You need to dig into her memories. They're the key to saving her. Get out of here." He snapped, anger flooding his veins. "Don't you have anything better to do than loom in the shadows?" But the figure only shook their head, a mixture of pity and determination on their face. "You think she's the only one affected by her past? There's darkness you can't see, but you can break the cycle. You just need to find her heart." The darkness in the room swirled, and for a brief moment, Jake was frozen. The urgency of the situation mixed with confusion. What does that even mean? He croaked, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Her heart, it's lost in the shadows. You need to shine a light on it," they insisted, their voice steady, yet urgent. The doctor's shout broke the moment. "Jake, we're losing her." Now, Jake turned back to his mother, fighting against the rising tide of fear. He closed his eyes for a split second, trying to center himself. Would he be strong enough to face the truth? To uncover the hidden horrors of his mother's life? He opened his eyes just in time to see the doctor's frantic movements intensify. The machine squealed, a distressing melody that sent a chill down his spine. Each alarm felt like a countdown. Every second ticked away, a hammer against the fragile glass of hope. "Jake!" The figure began to slip away, their final words melting into the chaos. "Don't let her memory shatter before you. You need to confront what's buried before it's too late." And with that, they vanished into the shadows, leaving him gasping. A new kind of fear gripped him, sharper and more urgent than before. The darkness was settling in, but he wouldn't let his mother fade without a fight. The doctor's voice broke through again, filled with both panic and desperation. "We're almost there. Jake, I need you to hold it together." Jake squeezed his eyes shut, summoning every ounce of courage he had. Time was running out, and he knew beneath the chaos and the pounding dread that the real battle for his mother had just begun. Would he be able to navigate the darkness and discover the truth? Or would it swallow them both whole? He felt the weight of destiny pressing down on him. There was no turning back now. Jake's heart raced as the doctor's hands moved with frantic precision. Each jolt from the machines was a blow to his sanity. Time felt elastic, stretching out, while every second brought his mother closer to the brink. "Stay with us," he called out again, his voice trembling, teetering on the edge of desperation. The figure had reappeared, their presence looming in the hazy periphery. "You have to remember, Jake," they whispered urgently. "Her memories have power. You must dive into them." "Shut up," he snapped, unwilling to be distracted. The intensity of the moment drowned out all rational thought. Images of the past flitted through his mind, his mother laughing at family gatherings, tender moments watching movies together, and the way she would wrap her arms around him when he was scared. But those memories weren't enough. They were fragments, and he needed the whole picture. The doctor shouted again, "Epinephrine in. We need more pressure." Jake's hands trembled, his skin slick with sweat as he reapplied pressure to the wound. As he pushed down, a new image washed over him, the figure of a young woman he barely recognized, eyes wide with fear. It was like staring at a reflection in dirty water. "Who are you?" he gasped. "What do you want?" "Remember," the figure said, a calmness in the chaos. "Remember what she's buried, what she's hidden." "Enough," Jake cried out, clenching his jaw. He shook his head, but the woman's desperate gaze locked onto him. "Get away. I can't do this right now. Trust me," she pleaded. The doctor's voice cut into the moment, more frantic than ever. "Jake, please. We need you to stay focused. Don't let her slip away." As he felt the weight of the pressure in his mother's arm, something shifted inside him. Memories clamored in his mind like a crowd. Events he had long buried, arguments with his mom, her sadness creeping in after his dad left, late-night calls that left her breathless. The darkness he tried to ignore erupted to the surface. No, I can't." He felt the burn of tears prick at his eyes. "I can't bear it." The atmosphere in the room thickened. The figure before him began to change, her features morphing into those of his mother, her eyes pleading. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking but anchoring him amidst the chaos. "What did you do? What did you keep from me?" The vision shattered, and suddenly he was pulled back into the unbearable reality of the hospital. The machines wailed louder, and lights flickered ominously. Panic seized him. What if I can't save you?" His mother's body lay frail and still. The cold panic of losing her thrummed through him. Every moment dripped with intensity, so much weight that he could barely breathe. They were on the edge of a precipice. One wrong move, and they'd both plunge into a dark abyss. "Damn it," he shouted, thinning the veil of silence around him. He couldn't lose her, not now, not ever. He thought again of the darkness, the burdens, the unhealed wounds. "I'll do whatever it takes." Just then, the machines emitted a deafening alarm. The doctor cursed under their breath, swiftly turning to Jake with an expression he'd never seen before, the raw agony of helplessness. "Get ready for defibrillation. We're losing her." Jake felt the earth shift beneath him. The doctor squared his shoulders, adrenaline charging the air like a live wire. As the pads gripped his mother's chest, he felt the power shaking him to his core. "No, Mom. Please fight," he urged, his voice cracking. In that moment, the lights dimmed, and the room felt like it was closing in. Jake glanced at the dark corners, hoping the figure would return. Instead, a different shadow loomed, a reality he wasn't sure he was ready to face. Just then, a jolt surged through the machines, sending a wave of electricity coursing through the room. Jake's breath caught in his throat. What was the truth? With his mother's life hanging by a thread, could he face the darkness, or would it consume them both? And as the surge of electricity brought a sudden silence, he knew they were about to enter the most pivotal moment of their lives, the moment that would change everything. The air shifted, heavy with tension as the silence enveloped the room. Jake felt the tightness in his chest, the dread pooling in his stomach. His mother's body lay still, amidst a chorus of frantic beeping and rushed whispers. Then, it hit him, the machines were still connected, still pulsing with the desperate rhythm of life, but she was slipping. "Mom," he shouted, panic spilling over his voice, echoing off the sterile walls. "Come back. Fight." The doctor's stern face became a blur as everything morphed into a frantic haze. There were voices speaking around him, but he couldn't focus. All he could see was his mother's pale face, almost ghostly against the white sheets, a horrifying reminder of what he stood to lose. Just then, the room erupted with the sharp sound of the defibrillator charging. "Clear," the doctor barked, and the energy of the moment heightened. Jake stepped back instinctively, his heart pounding in sync with the machinery. The shock jolted through his mother, her body convulsing briefly, but no response came. She remained lifeless. "Come on, Mom," Jake begged, anguish slicing through him. "You can't leave me. Not like this. I need you." The figure in the corner flickered back into view, shadows twisting around her. "You have to believe, Jake. You have to remember what she buried." Her voice was insistent, ringing through the noise with a haunting resonance. "Stop," he yelled, overwhelmed. "You're not real. Get out of my head." But the moment the words left his mouth, clarity pierced the chaos. He didn't know who she was, what she wanted. But there was a truth there, a truth so potent it could tear through the fog of despair consuming him. Focus! The doctor shouted again, breaking the moment. We're losing her, there's no time. Wait. Jake's mind surged. He could feel something building inside him, an unyielding urge to uncover whatever hidden truth lingered in his mother's memories. I have to dive into her mind, he muttered, the realization dawning like a lifeline in stormy waters. That's what you want, isn't it? Yes. The figure chimed, her urgency blending with the entangled sounds around him as the room blurred. Jake felt the world shifting beneath him, layers peeling away. Racing through memories, he found himself standing in the living room of their old house. The walls were lined with framed pictures, moments frozen in time, their cherished family vacations, birthdays, and quiet evenings spent reading. They were pieces of his mother's heart. But there, in the silence, was something darker. A shadow clung to the edges. A memory flickered, a fight, loud voices, a door slamming. His heart raced, pulling him toward it. What is it? He whispered, fear bubbling within him. What did you hide? What are you afraid of? Suddenly, he saw her again, the woman from his visions. Younger, her face twisted with fear and anguish, staring back at him with a sense of urgency that matched the frantic beeping of the hospital machines. Jake, she implored, you have to find the key. Only then what? He demanded, desperate for answers. But before she could reply, a surge of energy pulled him back, violently thrusting him away from that haunting memory. That he gasped, back inside the ICU, sensations crashing over him like a wave. The doctor's face was contorted in concentration, hands flying as the tension thickened. One more time, they shouted, an echo of hope mingling with the fear that clutched the corners of his mind. Mom, he cried out again, swallowed by the darkness that crept toward him from the edges of consciousness. Help me remember. As the current pulsed again, he felt like he was on the edge of a cliff, ready to tumble into a chasm of revelations. What lay beyond the memories buried so deeply? Would it lead to resurrection or despair? Stay with us. The doctor's voice rang out as he grasped for any last shred of hope, teetering on the precipice of fate. But just as the machines surged with life again, Jake knew with a bone-deep certainty that the real storm was brewing within the deepest recesses of his mother's past. He had to find it, before it consumed them both. What sinister truth lurked waiting to be unmasked? Time was running out, and fate hung precariously in the balance. The air crackled with desperation as the machines pulsed erratically, but a new sound emerged, a faint whisper just outside the realm of comprehension. Jake struggled to make sense of it, feeling the world shift once more. Voices, both familiar and distant, wrapped around him like fog. They merged into a cacophony, drowning out the panic in his heart. Jake, the voice was soft, comforting, yet edged with a sense of impending doom. It was her. Mom, where are you? He shouted, his voice a raw plea amid the chaos. Shadows danced at the corners of his vision, flickering like flames, teasing him with their elusive glow. Find me, she beckoned, and the darkness pulled tighter, squeezing the breath from his lungs. He felt himself being drawn back into the swirling vortex of her memory, the very place he feared to tread. But something inside him would not allow him to turn away. He had to confront this chaos head-on. Summoning every ounce of courage, he waded deeper into her past. Suddenly, he was thrown back into the living room, now alive with muted vibrations of a forgotten era. Laughter echoed, mingled with sunlight streaming through the window. In the midst of it all, his mother stood there, younger and full of life, but the smiles faded quickly. Then came the shadows, the fleeting shapes that whispered secrets too sinister to be understood. Jake's pulse quickened. What happened, Mom? Please, just tell me. A clash sliced through the cheer. The door slammed, and all laughter fell silent. The warmth of the scene evaporated, replaced by cold dread. There it was, an unsettling memory rearing its ugly head, a confrontation that rattled the very foundation of their home. Stop! He screamed, but the scene played on, looming larger than life. The woman he had called mother was now a vessel of pain, locked in a bitter exchange that felt all too real. I can't keep doing this, she yelled at an unseen figure, her voice trembling. Jake's heart sank. What are you hiding? The question clawed at his throat. The swirling shadows began to coalesce, forming a figure with haunting familiarity. A man. Anger flashed across his features, mixing with disdain. "Who are you?" Jake shouted, emphasizing his demand, but the figure only sneered, fading into the smoke of memory. The laughter returned, but it was warped, twisted a cruel mockery. With a sudden surge, Jake stumbled backward and landed back in the hospital room. The sterile smell flooded his senses, starkly contrasting with the memories hanging in the air. His mother lay there, lifeless and still. The grayness seeped into the vibrant colors of his memory. "No, not again," he yelled, slamming his hands on the bedside. The doctor moved swiftly, urging the team to continue their fight, but Jake's heart was heavy with the burdens of what he had just seen. "You have to wake up. I need to know." Each word felt laced with desperation. The memories of a fractured family hung like a weight on his chest. The flicker of hope fought against the weight of despair. He leaned closer to her, his own breath shaky. "I won't let you go without knowing the truth." As he gripped her hand, another flicker engulfed his vision, a shimmering piece of her past. With it came the flickering voice that echoed, "Find the key." Only then his pulse raced fiercely. Where? Where do I find it? The chilling shadow swept back over, its energy suffocating. Just as darkness threatened to consume him again, an electric pulse surged through the room. Jake felt it surge, binding him to a terrible urgency. The defibrillator's hum intensified, drowning out his own heartbeat. "Come back to me, Mom." But even as the machines cooperated, sent shock after shock, the shadows danced on, mocking. If only he could just reach, understand, it might all come crashing down in clarity. But then the figure stepped in front of him once more, grinning darkly. "You think you're ready, Jake?" You have no idea. His world spun as he realized he stood on a shifting foundation of lies. The clock ticked cruelly overhead, time slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. What terrible secret lay buried in the keys of her heart? What would he uncover if he pressed on? Suddenly, a new sound pierced the chaos, an undeniable ring, his phone vibrating across the cold tiles. With dread pooling in his stomach, Jake knew this was only the beginning, the true revelation just beyond the horizon. The room erupted in chaotic energy as if fate itself had swung wide open the doors of possibility. Jake's heart raced, every beat a drum roll to the life or death ultimatum he faced. His mother lay frail upon that hospital bed, a flickering candle in a tempest. The shadows around him thickened, but Jake felt a spark of resolve igniting within. "Mom," he cried out, the desperation clawing at his voice. "I'm here. I need you to hear me." The machines continued to beep erratically, a ceaseless reminder of the fine line they walked. The doctor's fingers flew over the controls, urgency straining her features. "Keep your hands steady, Jake. We need to stabilize her now." His eyes widened as he turned from his mom's still form to the lurking figure in the shadows, a ghostly echo of the truths he feared. "You think you're ready, Jake?" You have no idea. The taunting voice clawed at him from the depths of uncertainty, creeping alongside the fear that wrapped around his heart. "Enough," he shouted back, shaking off the doubts. The fear of losing his mother fueled the fire within him. "You think I'll let you win?" "Not this time." He turned back to his mother, channeling everything he had. Images flooded back, the warmth of laughter, the tender embrace of comfort. But within those warm memories lay the darkness he needed to confront. "Fight for me, Mom. We are in this together. Remember." Suddenly, he was engulfed in a kaleidoscope of blurred memories flickering past his mind's eye. He saw distant moments, a child's laughter, his mother's soft fingers brushing his hair. Faces of joy now intertwined with arrows of pain. Cape Cod summers and evening dinners that turned into debates. Cracks had begun to form in the fabric of their happy little world. "Find a key," the shadow echoed, resonating deep within his core, stirring something unknown. "Find the truths buried beneath." Jake squeezed his eyes shut, his heart pounding like 1,000 drums. No more shadows. No more secrets. The walls of his reality trembled as a vision lunged forward, an urgency so incredible that he could almost touch it. With an electric jolt, he felt himself yanked back into the moment, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling his lungs. Peering down at his mother, he gripped her hand tighter, pleading into the swirling abyss. "What did you bury? I swear I'll find it." And in that moment, he sprouted wings of courage that unfurled wide. "Jake, the defibrillator." The doctor's sharp voice cut through his reverie, and he watched as she prepped for another attempt. Each shock ignited desperation anew in him, a raw surge of energy flowing through the room. "Clear," the doctor shouted. Jake stepped back, his heart in his throat. A jolt surged through his mother, and for one brutal second, the world seemed to hold its breath. Jake's eyes shot back to his mother's face, and the unthinkable happened. Her eyes flickered open, a shimmering glimmer of recognition. "Jake?" Her voice was a whisper, fragile yet beautiful, like the dawn emerging after a relentless storm. "Mom." His soul soared triumph coursing through him like wildfire. "You're here. You came back. Where?" Her voice was soft, tangled in the remnants of a fading dream, but Jake was ready. Unwavering, he asked, "What did you hide? We need to confront it together." But before she could answer, the shadow reared its ugly head again, a malevolent presence that loomed closer, and Jake's heart raced. "Stay away from her," he yelled, the urgency rippling through his resolve. "I'm here to help, Jake." The figure called out, urgency returning. "She needs to remember why she is fighting." The depth of that truth coursed through Jake like a charged current. "Then help us," he shouted fiercely. The doctor nodded. "We need to stabilize her." "You're right, Jake. If her past comes to light, she can heal, but we can't do this until we ground her in this moment." Then, unfurling from the darkness, his mother's pulse began to steady, the light of hope flickering brighter. "I remember," she stammered, tears pooling in her eyes. "I remember the choices I made." Jake grasped her hand even tighter, the warmth radiating through him. "It's okay, Mom. We'll face it together. We won. Let the shadows win." As realization dawned on her, the chaotic energy twisted, wrapping around them like a protective cocoon. The shadowy figure began to fade, its grip slipping. The fear that gripped Jake started to unravel. Together, they would face whatever looming dangers had threatened to consume their family. Each passing second strengthened their bond, and with each shared memory came a promise. "I won't let the past break us. We'll reclaim our light." In that intense moment of reckoning, they felt power surge, filling the room with warmth. The defibrillators surged once more, brightening with the rhythmic pulse of life and pulsing hope. The chaos subsided, the beeping machines slowed. Jake stood there, rooted in the familiar smell of antiseptic and sprinkled with the overwhelming embrace of love. And he knew, deep in his heart, that they would emerge from this stronger than before, unbroken, with a chance to heal together. Jake's mother drew a deep breath, locking eyes with her son. "Thank you," she whispered, finally free from the shadows that had haunted her for so long. Time felt infinite and fleeting at the same moment, like a lullaby mixed with chaos. And in that silent promise, the world around them softened, hope spilling over as they forged ahead into the light together. The storm had passed, but the fight, oh, it was just the beginning. Now, with their intertwined resilience, they faced uncertainty hand in hand with the specter of darkness forever banished, as radiant hope illuminated their path. Before they knew it, life and clarity tethered them to each other, a family, unbroken, resolute to carve their own destiny, no longer captive to the past. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure more amazing tales find their way to you. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the ending. Let's hear what you think. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans know how crucial your support is for the channel.